doing. Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. As you can see, I'm standing in the garden, As you can see, I'm standing in the vegetable garden, or what was the vegetable garden. Going back to 2020, must be. Yeah, 2020, spring of 2020. That's when I cleared this forest. This was dense forest right from just to the left of you, like 15 feet behind you, to the back of this clearing. So I cleared it, laid logs down, but moved logs, made a massive mound, a couple of different mounds. Hugelculture, basically just buried all the logs and then put soil and compost and leaves, anything I could find, piled it in there, and I've been letting it rot down. That's sort of forming the foundation of the berm over here where I have some blueberries planted and now some squash. And then built the shed with the cellar underneath. Chicken coop, as you can see behind me, built that last year. Chicken coop and chicken run. And over those years, I just keep improving it and making changes to it. So I think it was 2 years ago I installed these raised beds. Mainly at the request of my wife. She liked just a little bit more formal, a little bit more structure, and some containment of the plants, which was fine. It allowed me to build the soil up too, because this is like very acidic, very sandy, and very rocky. Like you can't get a shovel into the ground here. So I've been raising these beds up over time, raising the soil level up in order to give room for the roots to grow somewhere. And it's been, well, it's been challenging with annual vegetables, but with these trees and bushes where we need a little bit more root disbursement and penetration into the ground, that's been a challenge. So it's been helpful to raise these. But that's why you see these fruit trees raised so much higher than the ground, which is not great for drainage. It kind of runs off a little bit, but I need that room for the soil or for the roots to get purchased into some decent soil. So the plan here is, like I said, to continue to add more organic material, but eventually what it will do is fill in this gap or this walkway between the raised beds, and eventually that board there, it's kind of like charcoal because it's been burned, but it's going to continue to rot down and absorb nutrients and then release nutrients. So eventually this will just all be organic material, so that these roots from these trees, especially because they're up high, they're going to kind of go down to stay below the, they don't want to be exposed to air as they come in towards the pathway, so they'll go down, and then the organic material is going to build up, so I'm going to have nice deep root systems on these trees, so that drought is not an issue. In fact, I'll rarely actually need irrigation in a typical year because of that. So that's, yeah, that's what I'm working on, is just continuing to bring on in as much wood chip and shredded bark as I can. Anyway, what we've done here is converted this vegetable garden into an orchard. So we went from an annual garden essentially to a perennial food system, a perennial food forest. And it's, I would call this maybe the back to Eden method, where you just keep piling in the wood chips and letting those rot down. Between that, leaves, logs, branches, whatever organic material I can get, just been spreading it over this ground for the last 5 years. This will be my 6th growing season. And the soil is getting rich. I've had really successful crops over the last 5 years, and I expect these fruit trees to do well. Now, when I say fruit trees and a new orchard, that's just this raised bed area. If you look down over the berm here, those trees are as old as, I think, 4 years probably. In fact, there's a cherry that you can see blooming back there. There's 3 in a row. Those are sour cherries, slightly sweet. They're good to eat still, but they're sour cherries. And then I have some sweet cherries that were planted afterwards, but those are going to produce, they started producing last year, they're going to produce heavily probably this year. So a variety of ages, I would say, from 4, 3, 2, and now 1, well, and now 0. What we have here is, well, what we did here this year is planted 12 varieties, 2 each of 12 different varieties of apple. Honeycrisp, so different, well, Jonah Gold, Nova Mac, I think, Freedom, Honeycrisp, a few others. We planted 2 more plums to replace a couple of nectarines that got killed by voles this year. I have some Toka plums in the front over here, and a big Toka plum there that actually produced some nice tasting edible fruit last year. That should produce heavily this year, although I pruned it quite heavily. In fact, pruned a lot of the trees quite heavily last year. So it set them back a little bit, but it just, I think it was, well, we're just more concerned about the future. So we want the size the way we want it, and we want the openness, the structure that we're looking for. So prune more heavily than probably should have. Now, you shouldn't take more than 25 or 30% of the branches off, but I think we might have done a little bit more than that. So anyway, what do we have? We have nectarines, lots, several trees of nectarines. We have peach, I think we have 2 peach trees, a Frost and a, what's that other one? Reliant, I should remember that. Reliant peach, that peach over there should probably produce this year. More apples, different varieties down there. I've got Canada plum, Toka plum. Like I said, those Toka plums will be producing this year. We have several sweet cherries, several sour cherries. We have pawpaw, hardy kiwi, Tons of blueberries, like hundreds of plants, bushes of blueberry. Apricot. That might be it for fruit trees. Like I said, blueberry bushes, jostaberry bushes, which are full flower right now. They produce the earliest. I think even before our strawberries. So jostaberries, sea buckthorn, which is sea berry. Just trying to think what's down there. Hascaps, strawberries, raspberries, red raspberries, yellow raspberries, thornless raspberries. Here we've got 3 varieties of blackberry of vining. I think Hector blackberry, 2 different blackberries here. We've got a Loganberry, which is basically a mix, a hybrid between a raspberry and a blackberry. Might be it. I'm probably missing something, but anyway, we'll walk around and I'll point it out if I see something else. But I'll give you a quick tour. But anyway, this is it. This is the transformation, and mainly it's because my wife and I have really cut out most vegetables out of our diet. Very controversial to some people. We feel quite strongly about it. We've had very good success. So we eat mostly animal products, so meat, dairy, fish, eggs. This is why we have the chickens, and fruit. So everything that does not contain anti-nutrients, essentially. So tons of fruit so not only for eating, obviously, eating fresh, eating frozen, canned, dried. We do all of those methods, but also for attracting wildlife. So I end up shooting in the area deer, turkey, and bear, and all 3 of those species come in to feed on our crops. So it ends up contributing to our meat supply as well by just growing fruit instead of just vegetables. Now, unfortunately, we do have other animals like fox. Got one of our chickens a couple of days ago. We actually got it on trail camera, and they came out this morning, and that fox took off. It was trying to get into the chickens. They were freaking out. And I, of course, just walked up on the fox doing that. We also get grouse, some rabbits, not very many rabbits, groundhog, things like that. So everything's attracted to all the food that we have growing here. We have natively lots of red acorns, or red oak acorns. Oh, and hazelnuts. I've planted hundreds of hazelnuts throughout the 2 properties. And I think looks like we have flowers on one of the bushes right now, and probably if it's on that, it's on several of them. Oh, grapes. That's one of the other fruits I forgot. I have a grape over here that produced a few clusters last year. I have to run some wires over the next couple of days for trellises, because I have planted more grapes and more blackberries all along all of these arbors. So that's a lot going on. It's getting hot out, the bugs are getting bad, and we just got this irrigation in just in time. So all of the raised beds are now finished, and now I think we're going to run a line. I've got one spread out there, run it to the beds along the chicken run there, and then a drip system going into their watering. The big barrel there that feeds or waters the chickens. And then I might do a little bit more down here, but other than that, we could stop now and be happy with our irrigation. Now last year, we don't live in a really dry climate, and last year I think we ended up with ideal amount of rain. Didn't have to water, I think, most of the summer. And that's when I grew a lot of chicken feed in this garden and other annual vegetables, and didn't need that water, that irrigation. But there's some years that we get a lot of drought, so it's good to have this in place. And it's going to be nice to let us get out and do things without having to worry about the garden all the time. Anyway, that's it. Just wanted to share that with you. It's been it's a busy spring working on the cabin. As you saw, I finally got the outdoor kitchen screened in, and I'm now starting to stone the bottom of the kitchen, and then I'll be digging the foundation for the bedroom. But this spring work just has to be done. Getting this garden established again for this year was priority. So I got another probably day of just messing around in here, getting those trellises up, a few more plants in, and more wood mulch all across these beds, and then that's it. That gets pretty much hands off because it is just a perennial orchard. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you back here on the homestead next time. Take care.